Hey, Drew, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. I love to be here. I appreciate you bringing me on. You're not tired of me yet.
Not tired of you yet. Episode 104, or
Wow.
season 5, episode 4, depending on how we do it. So, um, it's the same hypothetical as last time. A lot of the questions are different from when you were here last time. So, I'm interested in getting your perspective on stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the same hypothetical, which is you've signed a new client. It's a 1-year engagement. Today's day one, and we're going to focus mostly on the first 90 days or so, like what it's like for a company when they bring on their first ever fractional CMO. But first, before you tell folks like what problems you normally see or situations you normally walk into and deal with in the first 90 days, tell everyone a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a fractional CMO for about 3.5 years. I specialize mostly with businesses in manufacturing. That's a pretty big umbrella. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's varied from, $250,000 warehouse management systems down to a bag of birdseed. So, but I love working with manufacturers because you are there on the product innovation side and you really have, a lot of control over what you're bringing to the market. So I love working with manufacturers.
So what's it like with
I
manufacturers
Go
the
ahead.
first 90 days?
First 90 days, well, often manufacturers have multiple distribution channels. They have
Right.
multiple products. They're in a couple different submarkets. So I would say the most important thing, if you are just getting started with a business, especially in the first 90 days, is to orient yourself. And I love to take a market orientation approach. And so what I mean by that is the business is going to tell you one thing, and that's very valuable. But to hold that and also try to grab, what does the market think? What does the market do? What does it want? What already exists in the market? What are the consumers looking for? What kind of alternatives or other solutions that they pursue to that end? Because business is about solving problems. If
Right.
if you can figure out how businesses or how consumers, sorry, are solving the problems, you can figure out how you can make sure that you have the preferred option. So I love to take a market orientation approach. It takes a little bit more time than just going right in there and taking action, but you also get to much more meaningful results. Um, yeah, why does the market act the way it does? What does the market want, and what can we learn before we go in and start any doing?
So, well, then let's think about this way. Let's pretend I'm the CEO of this manufacturing client. Okay.
Sure.
What should I do or what should I stop doing to make sure that I don't mute the strengths, so to speak, of the fractional CMO that I bring in? Like, how
Mm.
do I make sure I don't waste the money that I've just allocated by, like, messing up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, on the first level, I think that the blessing and a curse of coming in fresh when you're a fresh fractional to a business is you don't know much, so you're going to ask some dumb questions. And so, as the CEO, allow those dumb questions. I think when you, especially for the CEO who's probably been in the business for a very long time, you start to get a little biased to and assume certain levels of knowledge maybe in the market, and you start to think that maybe it always has to be a certain way or whatever. So I think it's really important to let that fractional ask the dumb questions. It's a blessing and a curse, and I say that because it's a curse because you're going to be a little ignorant to the full situation that's going on in that market. But the blessing is that your questions will probably open up fresh perspectives that were not considered. So as
Right.
the CEO, allow those questions to be heard, answer them earnestly, but then also give that CMO the chance to take the reins. I mean, once you've done a bit of an audit and you understand the business as it stands, you understand the business goals that the CEO has set, you're gonna have to give that CMO some space to make changes. Where I see, like you said, that muting of the CMO go wrong, where is their team's already busy, they're at 100% of capacity, and you bring
Right.
in a new, fresh perspective. There's no room to move. The team is busy. They're up to their
Yeah.
gills in projects. What is this new CMO going to do for your business? So you have to give them a bit of slack. You have to give them a bit of space to wiggle and to reallocate and reprioritize the team's tasks.
Well, let's talk about the team for a second. I'm one of the marketers on that team. Okay. And it's a year from now. So the fractional CMO that we brought in has like done their thing and is cycling out. And I'm looking around. I'm still here. Like, there's inevitably there are personnel changes. Even if the fractional CMO actually doesn't like remove people, people like find
Right.
new jobs and stuff. It happens. They move away, right? But I'm looking around, I'm looking at my team and my coworkers and stuff, and I'm thinking, wow, like we are very different than we were a year ago. How are they different?
Hmm. Well, because as a fractional CMO, it's a I'm gonna pause. Retake that.
It's okay.
As a fractional, you are it's temporary by design. You're coming
Hmm.
in as a fractional, and so a lot of I think if you're a good CMO, there's that audit like we talked about, that fresh perspective. But then it's system building. You got to work yourself out of the job. So in
Yeah.
one of the ways the team is better is we're more focused on our objectives. We have more systems in place, so we're more consistent with what we're doing. We got a lot more whys and maybe data to back up the doing that we've chosen to go out and stay busy with. And hopefully as a team, we're much more cohesive.
Right.
I think that's the streamlining a leader does when you have someone who's not caught up in the doing day to day to come in and create great strength from a vision perspective, clear communication, better systems. The team should feel better. Even when that person exits, all those things are still here. All those things are still in the business. And I think that is how the team should feel after. You've done a good job as a fractional when you can leave and the team is like, okay, we got this, and you hand over the keys again. You say, you go, rock
Yeah.
stars. You don't need me anymore. We've either elevated somebody internally into this role and they can handle it now, or we're bringing in someone more full time because we've grown and we've created systems and we've leveled up in our sophistication. So I think that's what a team should look like.
Okay, so season 5, every season the questions change. Those questions came from season 4 because we like to keep some of them, especially the first one. But I've got a couple of fill in the blank questions, and they sound simple, and yet every time I ask them so far, and this is episode 4 of the season, apparently there's a lot that could be filled in that blank.
Sure.
So here are the 2 fill in the blank questions. First one. Many clients don't understand
strategy. I think strategy is a word that
marketing strategy, especially.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Marketing strategy specifically, but the word strategy gets thrown about willy-nilly often. And I think if I was to put it as simply as possible, because this gets asked of me in client calls a lot, strategy is when you become choiceful. You have to choose a direction. Strategy is sacrifice. And if we have a lot of good strategy, is not looking at all the amazing opportunities and doing all of them. Strategy is saying we're going to do this set of things. We're not going to do these set of things. And we're going to do it in a very particular way towards a certain aim. And even though these other options are good, we're not going to do them because a certain strategy has been set. And I think that is great strategy. And so often, I think when marketers are looking at a business for the first time, they want to just optimize what's already working, or they want to make things a little bit better, or tighten up this thing, or better budgeting, or better whatever, better creative. But often strategy is taking a step away from the game board and saying, what game are we going to play? Where is the business going? Where are the opportunities? And then being really choiceful about where we're going to go. And that's strategy. That's what strategy is. And I think it gets, the definition gets a little loose sometimes.
All right. That's a great answer, I think. Here's the second fill in the blank question. New fractional CMOs don't understand
our business, our market. I think a lot of where I think you can go wrong with a fractional is if they are going to come in with almost like a boilerplate. There's a manufacturing word, copy and paste result for your business. So like, oh, I've done this for these people, I'll just do it here, right? And they copy and paste all the systems and whatever. All that's the busy work of marketing. What you need is someone who's going to eat some humble pie, ask really good questions, sometimes some dumb ones, and get in and learn about you as quickly as possible and have a plan for the learning. And maybe that's the structured part of it. But after we're done that, all the work for your business should be custom because you're in your own unique situation. You have your own unique business goals, and the market continues to change.
Yeah. What do you think they don't know, new fractional CMOs, about the business of being a fractional CMO? Because there's more to it than just being some client's fractional CMO, right? You basically own your own business and also working for someone else's business, right?
I think the hard lesson that I had to learn moving into fractional work was that you're going to have to do a bunch of mental shifting between client work. Like I limit how much work I take on. I only work with 3 clients at a time. I know that varies between fractional CMO. But you're going to have to be shifting a lot. If you, as a business owner, as an individual running your own business and having, a client load, you're going to have to be shifting from what you're thinking about and managing your time effectively so that each business feels like they're getting the maximized value of you being there and working with them, while still trying to grow your own individual business. And I think that's hard to do. It's not an easy thing to do, to juggle deep client work, not wide, but deep client work, with also growing your own business and outreach and getting better at what you do.
Well, then let's say like your best friend says, "Hey, Drew, would you mind joining us for coffee? A friend of mine is thinking about or is looking for bringing in their first ever fractional CMO. Like, it's not in your vertical. It's really not it's not an opportunity you'd be interested in, but they want your sort of view and opinion, and definitely look for this or definitely try to avoid that kind of advice when they're looking for their first ever fractional CMO.
Yeah.
What would you tell your buddy's entrepreneur friend?
Yeah. I think looking at a track record is good, but often I think as we saw this through COVID, there's a lot of businesses that succeeded despite of their efforts, not because of their efforts, right? There are some strong wins in either direction. Some market categories completely collapsed in on themselves.
Yeah,
and
you
some
didn't
boomed.
need great marketing to sell face masks during
No,
COVID.
no, you didn't.
Wow.
So, do you give the credit to the marketers, or do you say that the larger macroeconomic conditions were boosting up these businesses pretty well? So, looking at their past can be good, but I think it's much better if you're going to be talking to this prospective fractional CMO, asking them if of their successes, what was their part to play? What did they see that they capitalized on? Where did they go about doing it? And what was the insight that fueled the strategy they set? And then if you're meeting with somebody and they're doing a lot of prescribing solutions to you, you may want to challenge that and be careful to bring on someone who's going to come with a lot of answers in the beginning. Marketing is about the market. And if you aren't bringing in someone who's innately curious about what your business is doing, what you've done in the past, what you're currently struggling with and grappling with internally, the opportunities you see, and to take some time to look at the market beyond what you believe about it, they take a fresh take on it, then you may be getting someone who's just going to bring their old successes to you, and they may not work. You may see that, this is actually a unique scenario, and we're going to need a custom solution that this person isn't willing to provide. So find somebody who's curious, and then find somebody who has made strategic decisions before, because a fractional CMO should be a leader and a strategist first. The doing is a bonus.
No, I had someone, I'm writing this book, a new book called What Your CMO is Trying to Do.
Cool.
And it's for like founders and CEOs who didn't come up on the marketing side. There's now a CMO in the company, and they're like trying to understand kind of the fundamental basics of what this person is trying to achieve. And it didn't make it into the book, but one of the like 17 people collaborated with me on this book, CMOs. And one of the things that came up is someone said, like, Dean, it's really helpful when you're talking to your potential client to ask them if what they sell, you explain to them some things are bought and some things are sold. Right. And he gave an example from the insurance world. It said term insurance is bought. You just go on a website and you can buy it pretty much sight unseen. Right. And whereas like whole life is sold. Right. There's an investment component, a savings component, and a cash value component. Right. And, there's like, it's a more complex product and most people don't need it. And so, in some cases, what your client sells is bought. And in other things, it has to be sold. And the marketing would reflect that. And he said, I've never, ever, ever had a client who didn't need that distinction explained to them when I was sort of interviewing the client. Not me. But,
yeah.
Right? But if you're in a bit, but your marketing is very different. When your whole approach and strategy for marketing and sales is very different when you're in a business where you have to convince people of something important before they'll buy, not just your product, but even a product in that domain, versus, the demand is already there. And so you just need to sort of distinguish and convince that yours is one of the better options.
Yes. Speaking to your point on like what a CMO should be doing for your business, what is the roles and responsibilities that you're giving this person? I think we've slipped so far into the promotion and the advertising for the traditional marketing role that other aspects of what the marketers should be at least influencing or at a seat at the table for are getting quite neglected. If we think back to like Philip Kotler, which is the segmentation, targeting, positioning, right? Some of that old school foundations, or the 4 Ps of marketing, which really haven't changed, and people have tried to add in all sorts of letters, but really it's never changed. Those really are where a marketer should be and should be owning. I think if marketers don't have a say on the price, not just the sticker, or positioning the price against, right? For instance, as a fractional, you're not an expensive freelancer. You're not a one-person agency. Right. You're a agile and lean marketing executive that I can bring in for cheaper and less restrictive than a full-time role, right? That's pricing, not just the sticker that you pay to do it. And product, having the, listening to the market and bringing that feedback loop so the product continues to get better in ways that the market wants. I've worked with a business, they spent millions of dollars on research and development to improve the efficiency of their product. But when I went and talked and did quantitative studies and qualitative studies, we realized that efficiency didn't matter to the market relative to what was being offered. The need of it being efficient was already met. What do I mean? So there's this, I'm trying to be a little vague because the business, but I can say in general, it's a heating alternative, and, efficiency matters. It's going to change how much wood or fuel you're using for it. And so efficiency matters. And so the business said, we're going to be the best at efficiency. And so they went out to do that. Right. But when they created this product, it wasn't selling as good as their product that was less efficient. And so they were wondering why. And so they brought me in, and I did that research part before we got to the prescribing. And what we realized is it wasn't some, landing page problem or an advertising problem or whatever, is that wasn't the need the market was looking at. Right. And that problem was met. The efficiency that they were looking for from a product was already met by the bulk of options on the market. What they were looking for, more important than efficiency, because that's table stakes now, was reliability, was support, was the fact that they were going to be around and available to you when stuff breaks down, that it's easy to understand and install the first time. And these new values were always secondary to the first one. But once that first value was met, now these were more important. And so, taking the time to allow your marketers to be in product, right? To be involved in product, even if the product's already designed, have them involved in the innovation from this point. And how do we make this more grounded in what the market's truly looking for, not just this race to the top? Because most businesses look at their competitors. If their competitors are slightly more efficient, like in this example, we got a race to be better at it. But it turns out the market wasn't looking for that. And so a marketing approach to product can be really valuable to a business, where often they're just relegated to advertising.
No, I get that. In every single project I do, there's a section where I have to address the safety question, right? Because my specialty is those first few moments of someone's attention and making sure that they'll keep reading, right? And the safety question, there are 2 safety questions. There's one for B2B and there's one for B2C. And so depending on who you're talking to, and if you're talking to B2B, the safety question you need to overcome, right, is how do I know it's safe for me to vouch for you to my boss? Because you're rarely talking to the decision maker. In fact, in most B2B, there is no the decision maker, right? Everybody needs buy-in on the customer side, procurement or legal or steering committee or regional VP or whatever, right? And so and it's not that you get the sale if you satisfy the question, how do I know it's safe for me to vouch for you to my boss? But you don't even get the meeting unless you clear that. It's table stakes, right? Yeah. And in some cases where the competition or the industry in general is considered to be like unreliable, the safety, dealing with the safety objection might actually like get you a sale, but generally it's an obstacle you have to clear. It doesn't in itself. And then for B2C, it's how do I know I won't regret this purchase?
Right.
Which is the efficiency thing. Once everyone's more or less efficient, then you move beyond the safety question to like, what kind of impact is it going to have? Right. Or, the other sort of like add-on questions, but it's the safety question, right? Same thing.
Yeah. No, that's
right?
a good point.
Get past table stakes, like you can't make something or put a lot of money into something or create something and then get mad at the marketplace for not wanting it.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. That serves no purpose. It doesn't even make you feel good by blaming the market for not wanting what it doesn't want.
Most businesses want to be a Steve Jobs, which is bringing a smartphone to a market that's never seen a smartphone. But most people don't realize that Steve Jobs, although he spoke one way, that he was an instinct and whatnot, he did a tons of market research to understand what the needs were. And no one was saying smartphone, but there was things that they wanted out of a device and they didn't have a name for it. They just had these values of things that they wanted, and he pursued that. So the research part's important. And to your point around, will I be safe bringing this to my boss or regret the purchase? the words that we like to use are, words like risk adjusted value. Like the price tag is one thing, the value I get out of it is another, but kind of bundled together is the risk adjusted value. And that's why in the industries that I've worked in, you'll often see a competitor that's got identical products, close enough, the same output, but they're pricing higher and they're getting the contracts. So what gives? Why would, if they're exactly the same in terms of the output, why is this other brand able to charge more? Well, a piece of it is the risk adjusted value. They're bigger and therefore maybe they can support us better, or that name won't alarm the CEO or whoever has to sign off on this. It's like they'll be familiar with that brand and they've worked with them before or whatever. Risk adjusted value is huge. And if businesses aren't taking that into account, they'll be really frustrated when they create a product that's maybe cheaper or better or whatever and still lose out.
If you're in the personal services world, I'm just going to give some advice to people who are watching, right?
Yeah, sure.
The equivalent for risk adjusted value is that when answering the question, and like I do a workshop, every single client I have has to buy this workshop from me. It doesn't take very long. It takes like an hour and a half to do the whole thing, but it's to figure out kind of like an angle for their messaging and their niche, right? I'm usually brought in like after you've already secured a client.
Sure.
Brought in later, right? I know. One of the things that in the safety question section, which is what they have to answer, it explains like safety for personal services and a lot of businesses, but definitely for professional services. Safety is all about the past, because they'll keep trying to answer like, oh, Dean, like when when you become our client, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're this and we're that. And I say, that's all great. It all belongs in different sections of the workshop. Safety is about the past. People want to know what you've done. You've done, you've had clients in 17 states. You've been in business for 22 years, right? Yeah, you've done all of this kind of like, it's all past stuff, because they don't have like a physical product even to look at or hold. They only have you. And so you can't talk about what you do and what you will do for them. That belongs in other parts of this workshop. It's very much about what you've done and for who.
Yeah.
And if you can't come, and then I will give one more tip for people. I talk this much.
Go.
Podcast, let alone, I talk a lot, but just in my own stuff. But I will say this idea, like every time I see this concept of, we have like 92 years of combined experience. I say, you never, ever, you think you're answering the safety question. All you're doing is introducing doubt. Never say that you have like combined experience.
Right. Right? A kindergarten class of 30 has 30 years of experience.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I bet, there's a big difference between 5 kindergartners who together have 30 years of experience coloring and one person who spent the last 30 years coloring stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would do that, but it's like, it's like, don't introduce doubt into your safety question. Don't introduce doubt into your risk adjusted value, right? It should be so plain that it preempts doubt. That's kind of its job in that part of all marketing, right? Is to preempt the doubt that someone has. And so, if you've got like, a really good sort of guarantee statement, don't put an asterisk on it. It just makes it worse. You're just undoing the work that your marketer or your CMO is like, and the researchers have figured out. Just like say something you can stand behind. Don't say something that's even better, but then you have to qualify it and introduce fear. Yeah. Right? You never want to introduce fear in a purchase. Right? You might exploit fear, but you never want to introduce more. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on my soapbox.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay. Drew, these days, like who should be reaching out to you and how should they be doing it?
Yeah, I work, like I said, with manufacturers that can come in any shape and size.
Sure.
That means that I'm comfortable with, the complexities of distribution channels. I'm involved in all 4 of the P's, in the pricing and the product and the promotion,
right,
and the people. And I work with businesses kind of around 2 million to 60 million a year. Businesses who are looking for a clear strategy, a strategy based on a why, a strategy with cited market insights, that want to see their team create marketing that's truly effective based on the science, based on the market, and based on what they've done in the past. And so if a business is looking for that clarity and for that leadership, that's what I do. And then I start there, and then we work myself out of the job so that you don't need me anymore.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. And reaching you is how?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm active on LinkedIn. You can reach me there if you Google Drew Friesen marketing. You will find me. I'm one of the few. I think we're still under 20 or so fractional CMOs in Canada. So
Right.
you'll find me. But I have a website and a LinkedIn. You'll find me if you search Drew Friesen marketing.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks again for being here, man. I really appreciate it. It's always good to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Thank you, Dean.
All right. Later, brother.